approach to teachers and pupils' welfare.
Boma likalati lisola kuti popanga malamulo asipangidwa maboma kuti woyang'anira maphunziro pa boma aziona kuti kodi boma langa lino ndaphunzitsa ngati oyenera kuwakweza pa ntchito kapena ndizoyenera ziti zoti tiapase aphunzitsi mu boma lino kusiyana ndi kuti zizipangidwa kulikulu la boma kungopangira maboma onse.
We have seen that there's a need to decentralize the education sector. As you now know, the number of activities that are being undertaken at district level in terms of education, provision of teaching and learning materials is being undertaken at district level. So there is a need to support that whole process through a legal framework, and there is within the proposed bill has a provision for that.
Regulation of private schools to improve the quality of service delivery in private schools through enforcement of laws that will check on the quality of teachers being employed in private schools, and government will be able to punish substandard schools and colleges.
Under the 1962 Education Act, one can establish a school by registering with the Ministry of Education, or indeed by registering it with the Ministry of Trade, especially if a school is being taken as a business venture, despite that education, be it business, is a service. And that has created a lot of confusion. So the revised bill gives absolute mandate with the Minister of Education as the superseding authority in as far as registration of school is concerned. And I believe that by doing that, we'll be able to harness effective regulation of schools in this country. So I thought that those dynamics are very much appealing to us, to see to it that we work collectively with members of parliament, with government, with the development partners and all other entities in order to push an agenda that seeks to ensure that the revised education bill is enacted into law.
Private school maphunzitsi awokhala aujeni maphunziro awo osawanira bwinobwino tiyerekeze kuti mwina pa secondary school amene mphunzitsi wa form 4 akupezeka kuti akuphunzitsanso ana form 4 chimenecho chili chinthu chotani chosayenera.
We have had a number of schools coming on board. Schools are being registered, being either registered within the Ministry of Trade and Industry as a commercial entity, but in most cases these particular schools don't meet certain standards, the required standards to provide quality education. At the same time also they don't have qualified teachers. So there was that particular need to have a provision within the Act to regulate the industry in terms of who should teach at most of these schools. So the Act has a provision for registration of teachers, so that these are certified, and on the basis of that they should be able to teach both at private as well as at public schools.
The current proposed bill seeks to promote quality and standard in that it is focusing on the possibility of licensing teachers, just like what is happening in other professions like medical as well as lawyers, in that once a teacher is deregistered, that particular teacher cannot find his or her way into the teaching. And by doing that, we'll be able to safeguard high standards.
Regulation of curriculum and teachers' training.
In essence, also it makes a provision for Malawi Institute of Education. In the past, there was just an order through the minister. But what we're trying to do is to provide a legal framework where they can easily mobilize resources so that at least we enhance their capacity in terms of providing quality education through curricular developments at most of the schools, at both at secondary and higher education institutions, secondary and the basic education institutions. So with those particular challenges, I think there's been a clear need of coming up with a regulatory framework through an amendment to the Education Act, so that at least some of these particular aspects are well entrenched in a legal system.
Nimukanakunda kuti boma kapena ma MP avomereze lamulo limene lidapangidwa ndi mu chaka cha 2010 kuti lisanduke lamulo lenileni loti liyambe kugwira ntchito.
The argument so far raised, which has been more of resource argument, I think for us it has been far-fetched. Far-fetched in that it is an important factor that for you to implement compulsory education, you need resources. But I think it is always important that politicians pay particular attention to statistics that are critical in appreciating the problem that we have in the education sector. Because if you use the current statistics, you will note that the net enrollment for primary education is estimated at 89. And therefore, if you want to achieve the 100% enrollment, you only have a deficit of 11%. Now, the question then becomes, how much of resources do you need to ensure that the 11% of eligible population, eligible school-going age, would need in order to learn? I don't think we need much more, as perhaps some politicians are claiming it. Because if you translate that, you would estimate that 11% would essentially represent about 600,000, which I don't think that it is a big issue. For us, it is more about planning. How effective can we plan about this? So I think those has been some aspects of frustration. When the bill was proposed during the last sitting of Parliament, it came just after we appeared before the Education and Legal Committee, and we made the submission, and our argument was also very simple. Let us look at content issues versus operational issues. If you mix the two, you are creating problems. So we felt that during the last sitting of Parliament, our members of Parliament paid more attention to operational issues, which I felt was not the right way to go, because the same bill mandates, gives powers to the minister, to the responsible minister, to develop operational plans and guidelines. So what we needed to do at present is simply to focus on content. What defects are there in the law that will make the proposed bill of registration inadequate? And as of now, our own independent and soul-searching assessment gives us the feeling that the revised education bill has attempted to bring on board almost all the needed ingredients.
It is therefore our plea to the Honourable Members of Parliament to take up this bill and pass it into law during the current sitting of Parliament, then prioritising acts that are not of interest to the wide society. Important bills like the Education Bill would also be used as a litmus test to measure which of our MPs vote back into Parliament during next year's general tripartite elections.
Ndiye maimupenda anthu ofunika kwambiri kuti kani mene aidziwe ndiponso azichite mwachangu mu nthawi imene ungakhale next sitting yawo ya parliament. Kani mene nafunika kuti ayikambirane onse pamodzi kuti maphunziro malamulo ake ayenera kuti asinthidwe, tisatengere ndondomeko zimene zimatsatiridwa mbuyo.
We are gratified that the bill has been put on the order paper at second reading, which implies that it has been prioritized by the Business Committee, and our call therefore to all members of Parliament is to support the plenary that will ensue the tabling of this bill so that it can be enacted into law.
Malawi muno njokuti akamakambirana nkhani za maphunziro azitiganizira koso ife ana skulu chifukwa tsogolo lathu lili maphunziro.
Ndikanakhala okondwa kuti ma MP aja akapita kwakambirana azitsogoza kamba nkhani ya maphunziro, ife maphunziro ndofunikira ndi tsogolo la ana athu.
Ma MP athu akapanga zinthu zokhudza malamulo a skulu Malawi muno ate kuti ganizira kuti ifeyo maphunziro athu apite patsogolo.
Regardless of who we are, where we're coming from, what our status in the society is, the call for quality education ought to be a national agenda. It is not just a question of which political party is in government. No country has developed without education. And indeed, our own Malawi growth and development strategy is that of seeking to transform Malawi into a literate country. And how do you transform a country into a rich state? It's by ensuring that education is prioritized.